Shooting Star, there are boards where Shooting Star is the nuts against Rogue. I think you see that with the Spell Damage Mage, the more minion-based version of the deck, where they can tempo out early and then Shooting Star just absolutely nukes the board on the other side, and it's the nuts. So if you have like the field contact, Guardian Orc Merchant gives it Divine Shield, then you play like a Prize Plunderer, right, to keep cycling, like that kind of board. Obviously, Shooting Star is the absolute nuts against that. But you're right, like losing Cram Session and Mask, like maybe that's too much to give. Maybe this is just made with Rogue in mind for Bozzzton even. We will wait and see what his choice is going to be from that position. But again, specialist format, single deck format, both of these players must start with their primary deck going up against each other here. So this will be primary deck versus primary deck, and then they have the opportunity to change to one of their more teched out versions of their respective classes after this first game. Win or lose, that option is available to both players.
Already off to a font of power here for Bozzzton. Nothing too crazy, honestly, just some small early minions, which arguably like help out Rogue in some respect. If there's some minions played on the board, especially with an Octobot in hand to talk about for Casie, but he's just going to get that Neophyte out, wants to stop any shenanigans. I guess mainly the one it blocks is just that Incantus flow on curve.
Already decisions for Casie. Okay, he's going to play Octobot and trade. Obviously, he had like little Tenwu options there. Not very appealing because, of course, that would involve leaving up the Fallen Hero. So then even if Bozzzton didn't have another minion to play, it would just be the hero power to take care of the bounced Cult Neophyte at that point. A little bit unfortunate, though, for Casie that with him having the Cult Neophyte start, Bozzzton had kind of the best response to that, which was Font of Power on one and the ability to just play some minions in response. Didn't really lock out his Incantus Flow turn effectively as he would have liked to.
What to do? What to do?
Do you think here in Prison Phoenix is just good? He's going to go for the Mini Mage instead.
Yeah, something you do have to look out for playing this deck is the classes where Mini Mage is basically immortal, right? Where you can just continue to have that spell damage over the course of the whole game. This is one of the ways that Casie can interact, though, with the Kazakus Golem. If he can get the deal damage effects, he's able to snipe out that Mini Mage at some point over the game.
Yeah, and I think the big choice for the Mini Mage here is Bozzzton can Brain Freeze the Octo now, as opposed to wait. Yep. For the Phoenix, so he can actually kill off this Octo without any form of reduction, which I think was the biggest reason that he would take that.
Oasis Surger is the Golem for Casie. Rush summon a copy.
What to do? What to do?
I'm a fan of Netherwind Portal here.
Are you?
Should I not be?
Well, I mean, I'm very tempted by Cram Session when I have, you know, borderline persistent spell damage as an aura on my side of the board, right?
Yeah, it's just that with Arcane Intellect and the Cram Session already in hand, I think it's probably okay to not take that.
It's fair. Yeah, I think if you've played...
rogues like to do.
If you've played Incantus Flow already in the game, I'd argue that there's no such thing as too much card draw, but I expect the cards getting drawn here will be too expensive to be able to dump quickly enough to get through that amount of card draw.
Also, something we do have to, I guess, train ourselves, like we talked about last week, of keep an eye on is how relevant Vanessa is on any given turn.
Yes.
Bozzzton does have to just bear in mind that his last card it can be impactful.
Yeah, it's true. I've definitely been learning a lot more about Vanessa interactions over the last week or so since it came into the meta a little bit more. You know, one of the particularly interesting ones being against Weapon Rogue, where generally the last thing they do on their turn is going to be play Cloak of Shadows when it comes down to the race at the end of the game, because they have to play all their oils first and then attack with their weapon and then play the Cloak of Shadows, which gives you the ability to kind of ice block them right back again with the Vanessa on the other side. Just kind of a cute little interaction. He got bigger! That did nothing, Raven.
Just Demon Rogue now.
Runs out on me.
Casie will have to invest 2 mana into a dagger to get that thing online, because I believe that's the like Ancient Watcher thing that can only attack if you've attacked.
Or he could Shadow Step and corrupt the 4/3. It then becomes a weapon, right?
Oh, is that what that? Oh yeah, that's Spell Steel Execution. Yeah, okay.
He's gonna die by
where your
looks of
head's
things,
at.
but you gotta think. You gotta plan ahead.
I like where your head's at, Raven.
Oh, he drew
I actually
Shadow Step
drew
as
the
well.
step as well. That's insane.
Also, Vanessa will pull a cram session, right?
Yes. Yep.
Not the worst.
You got a dagger, right? It's just worth.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I'm just purposely trying to keep an eye out for these Vanessa turns.
You just turn a 0/0 into a 5/6. Like, it just has to be good.
Combustion looks okay to me.
What to do? What to do?
The question then is, what is that follow-up?
Yeah, it's not like double combustion really achieves anything. Netherwind combustion seems underwhelming because there's just so much power still on the other side of the board. You're just getting beaten up at that point.
Maybe it's just fine with Netherwind because there's Ice Barrier, because there's Brain Freeze, because there's tons of card draw. Like, maybe it's okay to just get hit for one turn.
That's the other question, is whether you just have to play the barrier right now, right? Whether you need that 8 health and you're never going to have the mana to spend on Ice Barrier again after this point. Like, just choosing to ping and just leave up the Octobot at Casey's mercy.
Too quiet.
Draw is 1 thief. Okay. Oh, Brain Freeze. Brain Freeze is filth. Needs a way to proc his own Octobot here to have a full-blown miracle turn. And Brain Freeze will definitely do it. That is far superior, though. Picks up the Penflinger. That's the dream outcome now. And the world is Casey's oyster this turn.
Come, friend. Let's see what you've got. Efficient.
Okay.
Sufficient.
Is he going to Brain Freeze it again? He is going to Brain Freeze it again. Sure, I love it.
Oh my.
What a turn. What a turn.
No one crosses the uncrowned.
I don't think Casie is overly concerned about this Brain Freeze he's going to pick up, but, you know, Vanessa, on top of everything else, is just a combo card, so, you know, go ahead, drop it down.
It kind of does it all, doesn't it? I definitely didn't give enough respect to this card until I tried it because smarter people started playing it. And I realized, like, oh, it kind of draws a card, it's a 2/3 for cheap, it activates combo effects, like, seems good.
What to do? What to do?
This is it, right? This is why I'd wonder about that tertiary deck, because it's the kind of damage where we're kind of bored where spell damage Shooting Star is kind of exactly what the Doctor ordered, right? And you face this kind of board basically every game against Rogue.
Yeah, I think for me it's how often are you actually getting that spell damage together, right?
Yeah, right.
Like that's if it was in spell damage Mage, then no, like you said, no questions asked, 100% agree.
Yep. Alex in hand now, but Tenwu already used for Casie. Picks up Step, can go fishing for more burn with the 1 thief. Could also just nab a mask straight up off the Vanessa if he wants to go that way, if his end game is just picking up burn. Yep, spots it.
I like it. That's pretty nice, isn't it? I was even looking at some other things, like whether it was just Jandice Step, Neophyte Step. There are a lot of options.
There were. I like this though. Like, he's literally just role-playing Bozzzton's deck better than he is at this point, right? Like,
Look at the damage.
Yeah, he's pushing damage. He has an Apexis Blast in his natural hand. He has both Wicked Stabs in his natural hand, and now he has a Mask, like, plus the board. So, you know, even if Bozzzton has to spend a turn dealing with the board and Casie just starts launching burn, he always wins the race from that point.
And with the Neophyte just buffing or debuffing, I guess, Bozzzton's hand.
Yep.
By +1 mana is a big deal now. It means the answer to this board alone is going to be rough. Never mind, as you mentioned, all the burst that's available. Look how flexible Casey's hand is, right? Next turn, if by somehow this board gets cleared and Bozzzton pushes damage, I think he can even just Alex himself and then still having... No, look, right? If he Alex himself next turn and he still has double Wicked Stab and a Mask the turn after, it's like, okay, like that's a ton of damage. So I think he can even be like ultra safe.
My hand is too
Damage
full.
is this 5, 6, 30,
Enough.
it's 19.
Amazing.
2 Wicked Stabs is a ton of damage, even though it's only on turn 9. But still, it's enough to get the job done, and Casie is going to take this game number 1 in a pretty convincing fashion, honestly, Sottle. That you kind of just ran away with it. But again, I think Casie going for those sort of tricky, awkward turns. He isn't going to die this turn, he's just going to get Alex back. Is there anything that can even save Bozzzton? There isn't, right?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I guess if you're the mage, like, you play your outs and look for, I don't know, the ways to get ring toss into counter spell and something, but there's no way that Casie is not going to be able to get this done. Even from, you know, our perspective, we can see that there's Alex Straza, that I don't think there's literally any card in Mage that can exist.
He would have to actually heal for more than that 8 damage to survive, and you just can't. There's just not a card there. So pick your poison, Casie. That is going to be that game number 1. And wow, that looked relatively one-sided, Sottle.
It did. It was a very clunky mage draw, though. We're used to seeing the smoother mage draws. You'll notice that there was no round of applause for Bozzzton at the start, unlike Falcane and Zim, who were good mage players and drew Incanter's Flow every single game. As I did against Daruk, much to his frustration last night when I was trying to prove a point about how favoured I was against Priest and just proceeded to draw Incanter's Flow like 5 times in a row.
Right, yeah, see? Favoured.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how it works. But yeah, obviously when you don't draw Incanter's Flow, it makes life so much more difficult. The deck is just so clunky. There's no like miracle turns, right? Because when you have the discounted deck, you can do things very equivalent to what Casie did there with the Field Contact and the Octobot by drawing Refreshing Spring Water and refreshing bonus mana crystals, not just refilling your crystals when your spells are cheapened in deck. So without that, it does make you just a little bit inefficient against what Rogue is trying to do, and this is why I think, you know, since the nerf to Mage, that's why I say I think it's a fairly favoured Rogue matchup, because they're just too smooth, too efficient, too clean in the early game generally for the Mage.
It's like, we talk a lot about Incanter's Flow for Mage, but I would like it to, like, Rogue can Incanter's Flow way more often than Mage can, and way more consistently, just because of the way that the tricks work, right? Whether it's Shadow Steps, whether it's Octo hitting a ton of cards, Tenwu, anything like that just, you know, sort of cheats out tons of mana. Rogue just does that as a general game plan, whereas Mage is looking to draw 2 out of the 30 cards in the whole deck to do that, right? So you just see that, and it's going to be generally outpaced by the Rogue. But we are going to be going into game number 2 very quickly, of course, and I'm kind of interested to see just how these decks are, whether they're going to change or not here.
Yeah, well, no clues so far.
I'm just trying to check the list now.
There is an Incanter's Flow this time around, though, for Bozzzton, so I think if that does end up being the one change he makes... Okay. All right. There it is.
It's, I believe, judging from what I can see on the notes, is double primary deck again. Just throw that out there.
Filthy hand on the side of Bozzzton.
Did you clap twice for double opening?
Good question. To come up with...
Is there some kind of procedure for this?
Yeah, Yeah, I just have to do a celebratory... Insane! Oh my god, he randomly generated an Incanter's Flow. No, obviously it was Vanessa, and that was guaranteed to happen, and Casie knew that was going to happen, and it is nowhere near as good for Casey's deck as it is for Bozzzton's.
So yeah, Bozzzton really does have to think about this Vanessa.
Yep.
I wonder.
Can't wait for people to think that he should have played around that. Now, what I really want to see is Incanter's Flow number 2, and then Casie just Shadow Steps the Vanessa and plays it. It's like, I'm keeping up with you, my friend.
Wow. Oh, did it go left 3 times? I knew from the reaction.
Oh, please, Shadow Step. Casey's never going to do it, but I still want him to.
Yeah, no, 100%. 2-mana Emperor Thaurissan seems a lot more powerful than any of this nonsense that he can be getting on with, especially as this now lines up Potion of Illusion even on the following turn for even more Octobot-y goodness.
You can tell Saul's getting excited when he goes, Potion of Illusion.
Illusion! It's not a trick, Michael, it's an illusion.
Well, as you can see here, Bozzzton's double Incanter's Flow is paying off, right? Look at the Refreshing Spring Water he's got access to now. He's got all the mana in the world.
Mm-hmm.
He does have to fight back on this board, right? It's not just because he's played double Incanters doesn't mean it's just a win, right?
Yeah, that's now the goal, right? It's, you know, as used to be the case when you played against Deck of Lunacy, you kind of wanted to get chip damage in early when they played Lunacy on 2. Sorry, Casey's reaction to the second Spring Water. But you kind of want to get chip damage through when they played Lunacy on 2 before they got enough mana to actually play anything powerful, which was, you know, about 4 mana. But still, now it's kind of the same deal against Incanter's Flow starts, right? Because they will take over the game with efficiency later when they start drawing all the way through their deck. But if you can just get 5, 10, 15 damage in through the early game, suddenly you have a win condition, right? With Wicked Stabs and Alexstrasza and whatever else comes about.
I was just imagining right now, Derek's just making, you know, the Vince McMahon meme with the Casey's reaction progressively to that turn.
Yeah. Fair.
Gonna get this golem down though. No real surprise going for the 5-drop. What was that? Stealth, deal 3 to 2?
That is correct.
Oh, the counter for the mini mage. Casie knew.
Oh. I mean, yeah.
What you're saying is Bozzzton should aim this at Splash face.
100%, yeah. You have the brain freeze, right? Like, I don't see why you wouldn't want to just go max tempo here. Like, maybe you want to play around poison deal 2, but add poison deal damage to 2, but it's such a specific out. I just don't care about it that much.
I was more thinking whether he could, like, wants to save the brain freeze for the golem.
Sure, that's fair.
Oh. Oh, I wish. You're so sick.
What makes something real?
Oh, okay. Those aren't bad outcomes.
Nope, pretty good. Got to imagine the illusion is going on the Krastanov here. Potion of Illusion, very strong though. Illusion. Deal 3, step it, deal 3.
Yeah.
Should be able to make mincemeat out of this board. Well, it's kind of awkward. So now you can go Wicked Stab, step, deal 3 again. It's a guaranteed board clear. Choosing not to, though. Valuing the Shadow Step. Does have Jandice in hand still. Does make sense.
And what's left now isn't an overwhelmingly powerful board, right? It's a 4-4 and a 2-1, right? It's not like it's the end of the world. Obviously, Mask of Cthulhu is going to allow Bozzzton to get, what I deem, and just unfair use out of this Illusion 4-4. How is this still alive dealing damage?
It's quiet. Too quiet.
Muzzle their magic!
Casie looking for the dream here. Does, of course, have the Incanter's Flow on his deck. Brain Freeze is a very, very big deal. 2 fireballs in hand, though. Something spectacular is going to have to happen here, which did make me wonder about Jandice, right? Like, it feels like the kind of game where the fair things in your deck aren't going to work anymore.
I mean, playing 100 Neophytes seems pretty unfair against a Mage.
It's true.
Because now he can only double fireball, right? So if Casie kills this Jandice, he at least lives next turn.
Yes, and obviously Casie doesn't know how much burn is in Bozzzton's hand either, right? And how, like, immediately under threat he is.
You always assume he's dead. That's what I do against Mage at this point in the game.
Yes, I think that is indeed reasonable. Alright, so how many Neophytes was that in the end?
3, I think.
You get a 3, and you advance on 3. Can I get a 4? It was 3. Okay.
Sold. How much do you have? 2 Wicked Stabs for 8. And that's pretty much it. There's Flame Strike to clean this up. He does have 2 more Neophytes, though, that he could play with the bounce.
True. Yeah, he just picked up Field Contact number 2 as well. I'm not sure how much benefit drawing the rest of his deck gets him. There is still the Alex Strasser, I suppose, which is pretty good. I really want to get the Mankrik in there first, though, right? And then start drawing through the deck, but that's so greedy in this position. Don't think you can get away with it.
Care to make a wager, friend?
Just does shut off the Tenwu now. This ends up being Mankrik. Okay.
Job done.
Okay, well, double fireball ping is 13.
Is double fireball. Pexis Blast, on the other hand, is a million.
It's going to be game number 2. I was trying to work out if Caldara Drake could have had an impact on the game, but definitely not was the answer. Bozzzton is going to even this one up in a much better opening than game number 1, right? The double Incanters and then refreshing Spring Water. That is literally what you're looking for in pretty much every single matchup you're going to face with this deck.
Yes, I think the only way that hand really gets any better is if your initial card draw is like Arcane Intellect instead, right? And then you get to draw both Spring Waters discounted at some point over the course of the game, but that's quibbling over very, very minor details. Give me 2 Incanter's Flow in my opening hand against a deck that isn't like exactly Face Hunter, and I will bite your hand off.
Doesn't seem like a very nice way to reward someone who gave you 2 Incanter's Flows, but okay.
It's not a good deal, is it? Why would anyone take me up on that? That's ridiculous.
Why did Derek keep giving to you in that matchup? Again, though, I wouldn't expect, I think this is fair to say, like, I wouldn't really expect this to go into, like, secondary or tertiary lists. Do you think that's fair to say?
I think absolutely at this point, right? Like, I think there was a question about maybe Bozzzton saw his tertiary deck as a rogue deck. It wasn't designed for rogue, and I'm not saying that, but, you know, maybe it, like, splashes into rogue a little bit, and he kind of trusts it, but in Specialist, I don't think it... I mean, it is literally never correct to switch after Game 2, right? You should already be on the deck that you want to play. That's not to say that, like, in isolation, it might not be the best decision, but at that point, you have to accept that you made a mistake in Game 2, right? Like, there's always a mistake somewhere along the line. At this point, you should be playing the deck that is correct for the matchup because you've already had the opportunity to select which deck you want to play. So, having got this far, I would expect both these players to just stick to their guns and go primary all the way through.
Yeah, although it's something we have seen in the past, right? Where I think I saw it when I was casting APAC, where there was a switch game 3 to like a very weird build, and I think it was just let's see if this just catches my opponent off guard. Yeah, because it wasn't like
this matchup sucks. Who knows? Let's just play.
Yeah, which you know, it does kind of go against your point, and I completely agree with you. But it is just one of those things that is you can try now and again, but it's not the good plan to have, right? That is not a plan A by any means, nor even a plan B.
Right.
Let's dive straight into it. The final game of this series, again, a reminder, best of 3 Specialist is what we are playing this weekend, all the way to the end.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, just to polish off that point from Raven, one piece of information that is crucial to that as well is that you do not have to declare your deck to your opponent. They kind of have to just they figure it out just by what deck they expect you to play, and then as they start seeing cards being played, you just tell the admins which deck you are playing. Your opponent does not have to know. So if you do want to throw in a weird curveball surprise factor, if you think the matchup's that bad that just randomly switching decks might be your best chance, then sure, go for it. But personally, nah, not for me.
Care to make a wager, friend?
No one crosses the uncrowned.
Sick.
Hey, it just is, right? Like, again, it's just one of those weird plays where, although it doesn't look great because the card pulled, I think, is always the focus with Vanessa, it's still pulled a card that can get Casie plenty of stuff, and it's just a lot of stats early on. I think this is what you want to do against Mage.
Agreed. Good positioning here from Casie. I mean, arguably, there's weird, dumb arguments about exactly this opening against Mage when you have Octobot and they have the threat of combustion. About, well, you can put a smaller minion in the middle anyway, right? Because if they combustion the smaller minion in the middle and then the combustion splashes onto the Octobot, that's what you want to happen because then the frenzy goes off. Which is kind of a weird, dumb argument to be having, but generally just good practice against combustion, biggest health minion in the middle.
And I get that idea, but I think I'd still rather have just two bigger minions, right? Like on board. I think at least is where I immediately land upon hearing of it.
Yep. Wow.
My partner ruined up coming down here, so Bozzzton just okay. It seems to.
He's going to clean this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to brain freeze the Octobot instead.
There's more where that came from.
Job done.
Both players, though, having their starts stifled very effectively here because Bozzzton, just by nature of just not drawing the good stuff, didn't hit the Incanter's flow, hasn't really got off to a good start, hasn't got off to like a minion curve with Font of Power, which is the other way that you can really come out of it. But at the same time, Casie has gone double Octobot, and it looks like both of them are going to get shut down here by Bozzzton, which is a very big deal in itself.
I wonder.
Yep, just looks like a Golem Shaper here for Casie, which uses herbs subtle.
Dude, I was given such a hard time about this. Like, these people know me quite well with my propensity to like not really pay attention to card art or names of cards. Like literally just functionality of what card does. That is all the pertinent information to me. And the fact that you could build golems out of not rocks, but herbs, me not processing that information was apparently cause for ridicule.
Seems reasonable. Why would you only require rocks? You heard of a flesh golem, Sol? Or a...
Sorry?
A water golem? Or a plant golem? They all exist.
Okay.
Herb golem, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I only really realized because I know the herbs from WoW, so...
For any North American viewers who are confused right now, we pronounce it herb because it has an H at the start. Just thought I'd point that out for you guys. Yeah.
This is a tough one. This Stranglethorn Tiger definitely looks less impressive this turn than it did last turn for Bozzzton. Normally, I think this is a good outcome, and then you're like, 2/5/5 Divine Shields.
Yep.
Not really what he'll be after. I don't know where he goes. Does he have to draw cards?
Time runs out on.
Archaeologist will draw him a secret, of course. But none of this feels good, does it?
Not in the slightest, Raven, no. I think this is the only good line, is just to take damage off the board, try and stall out, but yet again, you just see, like, even when Rogue doesn't hit maximum efficiency, which absolutely Casie has not done here because Bozzzton's been able to deny that, You can see that just if Mage does not get the smooth starts, they just cannot compete with this flood of small, efficient, annoying minions that Rogue can play out here. And Casie looks as relaxed and chilled as we have seen him in quite some time right now, and I think rightly so. He is very much in control.
Even now, you can see that this Neophyte is very annoying because Mask of Cthulhu wouldn't have been a bad play this turn for Bozzzton. And then Casie knows he has another Cult Neophyte to back it up next turn, just to make turns just a little bit more awkward as well. It's all looking good. And the problem is, well, Bozzdon's minions from Font just suck. It's just 6-man, 6/6, the Archaeologist and Keyword, and he has not enough mana to do anything with anyway.
Yeah. Keyword and Ivory, a card that's actually hanging out in Casey's tertiary build for his Rogue, funnily enough, but not offering any kind of value for Bozzdton right now. Yeah, things I learned as well, that is also a Rogue card.
It's like Guardian Animals being a Hunter card.
Yeah. I swear, like all the dual class cards, I tend to look at the left. So when they're upside down, like say I'm spectating someone that's upside down, they like Keywarden would look like a Rogue card to me. It's kind of weird.
And look, more minions that don't really achieve anything.
And we're off.
Yep, Casie needs to find a wicked stab. There you go. to win this game. And that is going to be the game. That is going to be the series. Casie continues through to tomorrow and makes that top 8 spot. Whereas Bozzdton is going to call it a day and call it a week with this loss to Casie there. And honestly, I think we had a reasonable display, even though it was quick, of what that matchup is like, which is ruthless, right? Like whichever deck gets ahead early probably stays ahead, I think, is the theme we got, at least from that series. And from my experience myself, I think that is true across the board.
Yeah, it's 5 mana to me. That's the crux of the matchup. If the 5 mana turn happens and the Mage can Apexis Blast and be ahead significantly, that's usually going to spell disaster for Rogue, because they can then just hit face with that 5-drop minion that they got the next turn, start launching Mask of Cthulhu, start launching Fireball, right, and the game ends. If, in this kind of situation, as you see, like, sure, the Apexis Blast landed and seemed good, but then 2 5/5 Divine Shields came down as a response, and it was just nowhere near good enough, then suddenly it's going to swing back the other way very, very quickly. So I think, efficiency of openings and, of course, Octobot